Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady, Miss Edie Raether. Did I say that correct, Edie?
You got it right, honey.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, Edie has been in our community for a while. I really like how she shows up and her message and her topic. So I decided to invite her here. Thank you guys for tuning in. And Edie, thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got involved doing what you do? And we'll go from there.
Well, I do wear a lot of different hats, but this is parenting. And, I really, isn't it funny? I'm starting my 80th year, Dr. L, going 12, 14 hours a day. But it's funny how we return to our roots. My first job right out of college was in New York City, working with the most at-risk kids. And do you remember the Bender Gestalt test? That was the big thing back then. Yep. Loretta Bender, she was my boss.
Oh, wow.
And so I worked at a large children's psychiatric hospital, 8,000 beds, coming from rural Wisconsin, a city of 3,000. And now, I listened to this. I was on a ward with autism. And back then, we didn't know what we were doing. This was in the 60s. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the refrigerator mother syndrome. Have you heard of it? So many people have not. Women, mothers were blamed for autism. The belief back then, and that's why I say science is just a suggestion. It's what we know at the time, and it changes.
Right.
But we were, and I knew it was wrong, and it was all male psychiatrists at that point. And it was the belief that women, mothers were cold and they weren't bonding. And that was what was behind autism. Wow. And we now know it's, the neurological and so forth. So that's how I got started as an occupational therapist.
Wow.
And then, as an OT, I really, the rehab, seeing these people, young kids with spinal cord injuries, I couldn't deal with it. So I went back and got my master's in counseling. And then started in private practice around 1974 or something as a marriage family counselor and psychotherapist. And then about that same time, I started speaking. So now I've been on 5 continents. So that's a passion of mine, too. I kind of like Tony Robbins. I like the massive audiences.
I totally relate. Absolutely. Very cool. So tell us a little bit more about your journey, especially now that we are in the online world post-COVID and everybody's kind of joining us here. How has that shifted? And are the people that you are seeing any different compared to before COVID? Let's just start from there.
It's interesting because I don't feel I was affected by COVID. But I'm kind of really busy here, and I happen to live on the lake. And if I'm by a lake, whether I'm in a tent, and I was for a while, or whatever it might be, I'm happy, And so I didn't, even though I'm an extrovert, I am very content, and if we're doing what we love doing and we know our purpose in life, we can go for weeks in solitude. And I'm sure you've experienced the same things when you're writing a book or whatever. But, it's brought in a global world because of Zoom. So as much as I personally, as a speaker, I love the live stage. That is my preference. But I like the fact that with Zoom, you can be coaching or counseling people in Germany or wherever. So it's really broadened our horizons of who we can serve. So I think that certainly has helped. And, the isolation part that people have experienced, I honestly haven't dealt with that as much as just the usual, really. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I have a question for you. Where are you now as far as your career, and who are the typical people that you are working with? Let's go from there.
Jean Houston. Are you familiar with Jean Houston?
Yes.
Yeah, she was my mentor back in the 70s. And I even dedicated my first book, Why Cats Don't Bark, to her, because other than my parents, it's influence. So I started a doctoral program in the psychology of consciousness. So I do a lot of hypnosis, neuroplasticity, neuro reconditioning. And that's what led me, Dr. L, to creating this character building program for children, basically 3 to 9. And it's I Believe I Can Fly. That is one of the pages in the background. And my passion is so into this program because, honest to God, parents have said they have seen a change in their child's, dramatic change in their child's confidence playing one 5-minute audio one time. So I'm really now focused on marketing that and getting it out there. In my first TEDx talk, I'm doing another one next month, but my first TEDx talk is Brain Fitness for Kids, Cloning the DNA of Einstein. You can watch it. The easiest way is just go to wingsforwishes.com. I Believe I Can Fly. That program integrates all of the neuropsychology that I present in my TED Talk. And I have to tell you, my next one, I don't think you know about this, so surprise, surprise.
I'm eager.
And you know what this one's going to be, and I'm excited about that too,
Cool.
is I get so passionate about my topics. But this one is AI and technology making us dumber and crippling creativity. And so it's not bashing technology, but it's where we're the master of it, not enslaved. And I bring in the dopamine addiction that kids are getting,
Right.
you know, from their devices, where, you know, the brain is actually, and I know you're aware of this, you know, it's being hijacked. So we're not, you know, we're reacting. And that's why we see the violence and the road rage. And it's like, you know, the critical thinking skills, the creativity is getting lost. And I'm very passionate about that, because think about it. Think about it. If it weren't for creative minds, we wouldn't have AI. We wouldn't have technology. So we have to have it be a tool where it serves us and we're not totally immersed in it and it controls us.
Absolutely. I love it. So you mentioned 3 to 9. So for parents who are watching this and they have kids of that age, what are some of the things that they should look for, both normal and things that could be red flags?
Well, and the reason I have 3 to 9, and just between you and me, I started with my kids when I was pregnant. I'm so into music. So when I was pregnant, I would tap on my belly to Beethoven. And the one I did it with is very musically inclined. And then it got handed down to his daughter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I start even from conception, but most people won't believe me. So I say 3 to 9.
Got it.
But what it is I took the social challenges of the world for kids. And so, you know, we have insensitivity, bullying, and we have obesity, and we have a lack of resilience. I mean, kids are just, you know,
Right.
everything is instant love and push button success. So I took all of those and created characters. See, there's a book right here. Yeah. My mess, I got it. So it's a complete system of thinking. And these are some of the characters there. And Ruckus the rabbit is compassionate and caring. So what I do is I wire kids at the right time, 3 to 9, for health, happiness, and success. And so what they do is they read the book. Gustav the goat is brave and courageous. It's perfect for a child who tends to be shy and hesitant. And so as they read the book, it's just, if you know about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and I know you do, so as they read the book, they identify with the characters. Then here's where you can tell I get excited about this. The magic is in the audio tracks. And so every day they play a different track, or they can play, if they have a problem with bullying and being kind of mean and shoving kids down, then they want to play more of Ruckus the rabbit, who is loving, caring, sharing. And so what I am doing is mental imagery and visualization at an early age to root good character development at the right time. It's the right message at the right time in the right way. Right. For right thinking. And then if you know about NLP, I have a blanket, and then I suggest, okay, here's the other thing. I suggest that as they wrap themselves in the blanket, that they have a flash of greatness. Now, here's the scoop. Is when I wrote, my first book is Why Cats Don't Bark. Cats don't bark because it's not their cat calling. What I discovered is that it's in those early ages, about 3 to 9, that we reveal our calling in life. Let me give you an example. I remember when I was about 5 years old, my mother used to tell the neighbors, Edie has the gift of gab. And now I get paid because I have the gift of gab, right?
Right.
And so as parents, we need to observe our children and see what their natural genius, their inner genius, their God-given gifts are, and go with it, go with it. And so listen to this. So that's what I discovered in the first book. It's funny. I mean, why do we write books? Because we learn from it, right?
Mm.
Then in the third book was Winning, How Winners Think What Champions Do. And I have Oprah Winfrey interview, Rosa Parks. So people that, gentle giants that have climbed higher mountains, putting together their recipe for success. And what I found out is that they all, Carol Burnett had a flash of greatness at an early age. Oprah Winfrey looked at the TV when she was 5 years old with her dirt-filled floor and said, I can do that. And so what I realized is that if people, I don't care if it's President Obama, I don't care who it is, they all had Olympians, all say 2, 3 years old. They're on this, you know, they were born to skate. And so then I realized, what about the millions of children that never sing their song? They die with the music in them. So the motivation to do this program was so that for those children who don't have that spontaneous flash
Right.
of greatness, this plants the seeds at the right time. So
Yeah.
that's the motivation.
I love it. Actually, now that you were mentioning this, I was mentioning this to another colleague that I remember myself, as well as most of my boyfriends, as in my little friends when we were little, we all identified either as a police officer or a fire rescue person or a construction worker. And it seemed like that right from then and there, you could see that, you know, especially if you're a police officer, you want to go for justice, for instance, and upholding.
Exactly.
And if you're a firefighter, you want to save and rescue and be that person. And if you're a construction or you're a builder, you could be an engineer, things like that. And kids start identifying with these characteristics, basically, for ways that is completely unrelated to us. But from there, they start forming that sense of identity around it. And wouldn't it be nice for us as parents to be able to see that early on and be able to support and nurture that so they can stay true to themselves? So I love it.
Well, you know what? And I as you were saying that, I just remember a friend. I'm in North Carolina now. The cold just pushed me out of Wisconsin. But I had a friend there, Dick Westry. He was a lawyer, but he also had a band, River City Six. He didn't like law. He loved music. But you know, when I was growing up, our parents taught us to be a doctor, a lawyer, a merchant chief engineer, right? Because that's where you're going to make the money. Well, with PPOs and HMOs, there are electricians that are making more than my doctor. You know what I mean? Right. And so as a parent, don't listen to your child, observe your child. Don't try to vicariously live your unfulfilled promise through your children. And I'm sure you see it too, Dr. L. You see that so often that parents, you know, dictate. I did it myself. My granddaughter is about ready to go to college. She said something about being a dentist. Oh my God. I am a right brain creative, off the chart. Dentist? Are you kidding me? Digging in people's cavities all day? And I remember I reacted like, why would you want to do that? And then I got home and I wrote a note and I said, you know what? Listen to everybody, but when it comes down to it, be true to thyself. And we can't be successful in anything to thine own self be true. We've got to know thyself. And I think it's important that parents teach their kids that, right, to be conscious, to be aware of who we are.
Absolutely. So Edie, what would be, I know that this in itself is a huge tip, but what would be one thing that the parents could actually watch this video and start implementing afterwards right away?
Well, you know, I gave a free offer of one of the audio tracks. Awesome. And I'll make that available. And literally, I mean, this one parent said the child listened to one audio track one time, took off his training wheels and whatever. So listen to that. Listen to the TEDx talk. For less than $40, get my program, I Believe I Can Fly, money back guarantee. Never had one returned. But The other thing is, I mentioned that Jean Houston was my mentor. And when you said, give a tip, all of a sudden, from 40 years ago, I remember her saying, the best thing that you can do to develop your brain as a young child is juggling. And
Yes.
so a lot of times, even when I'm speaking, I'll buy net and cut it. And for kids, it's pretty hard to juggle balls. The earlier you start it, the better.
Yep.
But the integration, the body, the
Right.
eye-hand coordination, it does so much.
Right.
Oh God, I love this stuff. The other thing I said, I was into music. I I don't see as many people playing an instrument. I'm from I just found out that my little hometown band is going to go play for the Milwaukee Bucks game, who may win the championship this year. That's a
Mm.
big deal. This is a community. I don't even know if they're 3,000. They're going down when we're going up. But what I'm going to say is, you've got to engage your children. They have become too passive. They're observing. They're pushing a button, and the entertainment is there for them. It isn't about putting headsets and ear pods on and listening to music. It's learning how to play the instrument. That's where real brain development, comes from. And the satisfaction and the empowerment of making beautiful noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, engaging with the environment is the best way for us to not only connect to the world, but also to connect to ourselves. And I think it comes as a surprise to many parents when they realize that actually brain development cannot happen by itself. The brain development has to happen through the body interacting with the environment. So if the kids are not using their body, they're not interacting with the environment, that brain development, no matter how much knowledge they can learn from Wikipedia, it's not applicable to the real world and they can't utilize it. So they might have a lot of facts, but they don't know what to do with it. And it's very important for them to have this integration of the three. So,
Yeah. And as an occupational therapist, it kind of goes back to that. It's so true. And, I talk about kids being addicted and the dopamine addiction and digital dopamine and stuff. But you know what? It's their parents. They're addicted too. I got to tell you, Doctor, I was in the airport a couple of years ago, layover, and this was the saddest thing. It was very disturbing. There's a woman on her iPhone, and there's a little, probably 5-year-old boy next to her. And he was just gazing into space. I think he felt I just get goosebumps. He felt invisible. He was lost.
mm,
And she was so absorbed in this phone. And but she was a good parent. Every couple minutes, she would tap his knee as if to say, I'm here for you.
mm,
That is not enough.
right.
Parents, really, they're more addicted than anybody. And they use the iPad, the iPhone, as a babysitter. And between 0 and 2, you're not supposed to have your kids have anything. And I see 1-year-olds that know more about technology than I do. That is not good. And so they're not learning the communication, the relationship, the interaction. And this is the interesting thing, is developmentally, as you know, that we develop certain things. I mean, we crawl and then we walk and then we run and we jump and so forth. That if we miss that stage of development at a certain time, it's over. You can't go back and fix it. It's tough.
Yeah, there is a certain window that brain is active in that part of it, and you really want to make sure you hit that area when it's ripe for development. So Edie, I know that there is a sea of information and you have lots of experience with it. How can people connect with you and follow you and learn more about you?
Well, and you know what else? When you said do you have something to offer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about this. But I'm happy to do a free consultation with any of the community, and just can identify if this or that might be an issue. And the best way to connect is email edie@raether.com, EDIE at RAETHER.com. One of my speaking sites is edierather.com, but the kids' site is Wings for Wishes. And I should mention, and my phone number is 704-658-8997. But the other thing is, I do have a book on bullying, and it's a complete handbook. And if some of you are involved with schools, I have a 1-day in-service training program that gives CEUs on how to handle not only the bully, but those who are bullied, the bystanders. It's complete.
Awesome.
So I'd love to talk to anybody and help in any way I can.
Wonderful. Edie is very heart-centered, guys, so I highly encourage you to connect with her. I'm going to put all of her details in the description box. So right after this, make sure that you go ahead, check that information, connect, show your kids, role model the behavior, that we don't have to have all the answers, but there are people in the world that really have genuine interest in supporting us. And we just need to be able to reach out to them and make the effort. So that's important. If you haven't already done so, make sure you click subscribe so you get notified of all the experts, the expertise, and the gifts that they bring to this channel. And Edie, thanks again for being here. I know time is short. Any final words for our audience members before we go?
No, other than, in any way I can help you raise a remarkable kid. That's my mission. And thank you, Dr. L, for having this and making it available to the listeners, but also to us who want to make a difference.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thank you, guys, and tune in later. Cheers.
Bye for now.